My name is Alexei, and I was a liquidator of the Chernobyl accident in '86. Now I work on the Shelter 2 project. For those who don't know, it's like a new sarcophagus over the old destroyed one, and I think you know what a sarcophagus is. I want to tell you a story that still haunts my dreams at night and made me leave Chernobyl as far as possible. I wouldn't want to recall it, but the authorities keep silent about it, even though I'm sure that they and the government know perfectly well what's happening under the sarcophagus. In any case, the government always remains silent, treating people like fools. About 90,000 people of different nationalities and professions worked on the Shelter 2 project, and I was one of them. Perhaps more than anyone else, I wanted to contribute to the construction of this structure, which, if not forever, at least for some time, would prevent the spread of the contamination that had accumulated under the first shelter. After the initial disaster response, I started experiencing serious health problems. Those of us working on this project were paid fairly well for our efforts, but let's not talk about money or health now. Here's the story. I was a welder, and the structure we were building was massive, of incredible proportions. There was a lot of work, and in some areas there was radiation. In short, it was a rather dangerous job, but I was used to it. As I mentioned earlier, the construction of Sarcophagus 2 had begun because the first one was gradually deteriorating. During the work, I even saw huge cracks in some places, and in some areas it was clear that you could see what was inside. Consequently, it was forbidden to stay near those locations, and nobody had any desire to go there because you could easily receive a significant dose of radiation. One evening, a group of us guys gathered to eat and drink in honor of a colleague's birthday. We gathered in our small cabin, set the table, opened a bottle, and were having a meal and drinks. However, Sergei, a young guy around 30 to 35 years old, who was also a welder but worked at heights, didn't eat or drink. He barely said anything and kept going outside to smoke. The others paid him no attention. They were busy eating and drinking everything on the table. For some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about Sergei. He seemed too agitated, pale, and something was clearly off about him. He was usually a positive guy, the life of the party. But that evening, he wasn't himself. I suggested he join me for a smoke, to which he willingly agreed. We stepped outside, lit our cigarettes, and he took a drag almost instantly. At that moment, I couldn't hold back and asked him a question. "Sergei, is everything okay? Has something happened to you? You're not yourself tonight." Suddenly, he looked around, grabbed my hand, and led me away from the cabin. He lit another cigarette, exhaled heavily, and said, "In short, believe it or not, but something strange is happening under the sarcophagus." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Yesterday, I was welding some metal right above a crack in the old shelter. I was wearing a hazmat suit, a gas mask, everything as required. I was working there, doing my job, and I had been standing there for almost half a day. By evening, everyone else had left, but I decided to finish up the work that was left there." "Okay, and then?" "Well, listen, I checked my Geiger counter, and it seemed fine. So, I decided to take off the gas mask. I was getting tired of it. Suddenly, I heard sounds like someone was hitting a metal pipe against a rock, very loudly. At first, I didn't understand what it was, but then I listened more closely and realized that the sound was coming from the crack. I thought I would turn gray right there on the spot. What the hell was that? I don't know. There's the damn reactor and insane radiation. There can't be anyone there. Listen, maybe you inhaled something? Maybe it's just hallucinations? I'm telling you, everything was fine with the counter. It just crackled a bit. So I'm standing there, drying myself off, and darn it, I had the urge to peek in there. Not that I actually peeked in, I couldn't reach it. The crack was of a decent size that I only had to turn my head, and I saw in the darkness of the reactor lots of yellow lights, like someone's eyes. And there was this metallic sound. In addition to that, I could hear what sounded like someone's footsteps. They were very fast and quite loud, distinctly audible. So I came to my senses and ran away like I was scalded. Couldn't sleep all night. Suddenly, I felt shivers down my spine. I was just looking at Sergei's face, and it showed sheer terror, the kind that made me uneasy. I asked him if anyone else knew about this, and he said he had told the chief supervisor, but he laughed it off and suggested going to the infirmary to get checked. Sergei said he wouldn't stay there any longer and planned to quit and go home the next day. I tried to calm him down a bit, and we went to the other car, talked for a while, and then went to sleep. I slept poorly that night. I kept thinking about the incident for which I received a reprimand. At night I couldn't sleep again. My mind was racing with various theories, but I came to one that seemed most likely. I remembered that Sergei had told the head accountant, and it's probable that the management knew about what was happening in the sarcophagus and decided to get rid of Sergei to keep it hidden from the workers and others. I got out of bed to get some water, and Sergei's bed was empty. In the light from the window, something glittered on Sergei's bed. I looked closer and saw a piece of glass. It was a fragment of some kind of ampoule. I instantly realized that these scoundrels had killed Sergei. This ampoule likely contained cyanide. For those who don't know, it's a potent poison that causes death within 20 to 30 seconds. I grabbed my head and lit a cigarette. So, what he said was true. There's something beneath the sarcophagus, and maybe we're not building the second sarcophagus to contain radiation, but to keep whatever's down there from getting out. But who is down there? According to Sergei's story, there are quite a few of them. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Another sleepless night. The next day was the planned launch of sarcophagus number 2. For those who don't know, it was a movable structure on massive rails. I and my colleagues were on special balconies. Our task was to ensure there were no obstructions or damage. I had binoculars, given to everyone present because the structure was huge, and we had to scrutinize every detail. Suddenly, I caught sight of that same crack. All doubts were dispelled. There were indeed many strange yellow lights, all moving quite fast. As we got closer, I swear on everything holy, I heard the ringing of metal and rapid footsteps, as if someone was running in there. The guys who were with me heard and saw it too, so it wasn't just my imagination. That evening, I packed all my things and left. The next morning, I was in Kyiv, and from there, I went to Moscow to be with my relatives. Those to whom I didn't explain everything laughed at me, saying I'd breathed in something there and was imagining things. But I know what really happened there and the real reason for constructing the second sarcophagus.